Welcome to another episode on the Move.Talk.Thrive podcast. Today we are talking about clinical planning. So, this is going to be all about how we would create and set both long-term and short-term goals, which would then really be a stepping stone into mapping out a therapy plan, progress reports, measurements, and so on, which really become the foundation to our therapy sessions so that we can focus on connection with the children in front of us. I'm really excited to talk on this topic. You know that I love goal setting. So, with that being said, let's get started.
We are child development obsessed, business besties, and mums, and we're here to spill all our secrets.
We have a combined 30 years experience working with children, and each episode we will bring you up-to-date research and evidence-based strategies to set your children up to thrive.
I'm Lizzy Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackey, Australian speech pathologist,
And this is the Move Talk Thrive podcast.
Hey, Anne.
Hey Lizzy, it's been a while since it's just been me and you.
I know we've had a few guests. It's been
Yeah,
fun, but I feel
which has
like
been
I haven't.
amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't spoken to you properly in ages.
I know, we've been using this podcast to catch up a lot, haven't we?
We
Like even
have.
before we jump on, we have a bit of a
Yeah.
chat. Eh? What has been happening in your world?
Oh, well, I don't want to like be sound like a broken record and just keep saying that I'm busy. So I've been full and it's been fun. I'm feeling really good at the moment, which is no a nice feeling. Like I feel really energetic and motivated, which is a really nice feeling. I have just got back from 4 days in Victoria, actually. I was presenting my course to a couple of different teams that got me to come down and present to their teams exclusively down in Frankston, which is like near the Mornington Peninsula, and then Werribee, which is West Victoria, which was amazing. So I got back late Sunday night, feeling just invigorated and excited, and mapping out a bit of a 12-month plan for how I'm gonna do some live course presentations. So that's been what's happening in my world, along
That's
with
so
all the
cool.
other things.
There's a
How about
lot that
you?
goes in, well, there's a lot that goes into the planning of it, right? So even though you
Oh,
just do a 3-day event, it like you're planning it for weeks.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah. I feel like every time I present, I kind of, it evolves a little bit because
Mm.
each time I learn more things and I was really looking at so what these particular teams did was they did half of the course online. So they had all this like the foundational knowledge and the theory and the research that was backing it up. So they did that part of the course. And then they had access to the second part of the course, which I went through a lot of in the day, but also I really kind of got them to, put programs together, put an assessment plan together, and really get in practically involved so that we could practice all of the theory, basically. So it was really
Mm.
good. So it was a new kind of format for me,
Mm.
which was nice to test out. And to be honest, it was just nice to talk in person and connect with people and talk about this topic that I am basically obsessed with. So it felt really natural and aligned, which was cool.
Yeah, it's nice when like you and I do so much stuff online. Even this
Mm.
podcast is online, and even though we're talking, it just then makes it so much more special than when you go and present with people face to face and have those conversations. It's just is so nice.
Yeah, it's just nice to kind of feel the energy in the room. Like it just
Mm.
was really motivating and exciting, I think, just to see, you get such a different experience in person. So
Yeah.
that was really exciting. And now I've got some follow-up workshops booked in with them. And they're both going to get Kids Heart Pilates running from their locations, which is really exciting. So it's just, yeah, lots of things in the works, which is probably contributing to me feeling good and excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well done.
Yeah. What have
That's
you been
good.
up to?
Me, well, I feel like it's always full again.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
working on my app with Babel Beans because obviously
Oh,
we released
cool.
Beanamo, so I've been working on Babel Say. That's
Yep.
the name we think so far of the language app. That's been really challenging. It's challenging because I am putting my speech pathology hat on and then
Mhm.
trying to put it in with AI. So I'm still learning about AI and what that can and can't do, but then trying to make it really engaging for children, but not like a standard video game. Like it's
Mm.
really challenging. It's forcing me to use different parts of my brain, which is great for creativity, but again, just really stretching me. But I like that, right? It's a good place to be when you're feeling stretched. So I've been working with them and then also working with a new team is different as well. Obviously, I've worked with my Speak About
Mm.
team for so long that you just sort of get a rhythm when you're working with different people, just having to learn and walk through that, apply all of your personal development. So I've been doing that. We obviously had our Speak About retreat. Then I'm doing a PD tomorrow night. Well, it will be like last Thursday at the Hobartville Clinic. So we've got over 10 speeches coming and we're going to do latest research on preschool language. So again, putting that together takes a couple of weeks on the back end.
Yeah.
We've got a Speech Pathology Australia event, which I've organised at the end of August for the Central Coast species, if you're listening. And we're going to have a session on sensory and regulation with Dave Jereb, and we're going to do it at the OT clinic so we can look at all their resources and equipment and things and do that.
So good.
I've been looking at new books because I'm a judge for the Book of the Year Awards under Speech Pathology Australia. So I've loved that. I've never done that before. Again, stretch, but I have to like look at all of these books and assess them against a rubric. And then they go in to then whoever gets the most points, like based on all these educational things of which one wins. But these books, some of these books are incredible and I've never seen them before. Like they're just not in Kmart or Big W or on shelves. And they're all about neurodiversity and
Oh, so
different
good.
things. Anyway, yeah, and like resilience in kids. And so I've really liked that this year. I think I'll keep doing that.
Yeah. Are you going to share some of those on your socials or something?
Yeah, I did a little story last week showing my couple of my books that I've started doing, but it's like kind of a month, 2 month process, this judging process.
Yeah,
So I've
right.
been doing that. But again, just something different, right? Like just using your brain a different way, applying your speech pathology or your allied health expertise a different way to what you normally would.
Mm.
Which like that's been really cool to do that. And
Yeah,
then
that's so cool.
the
It's good
last
luck.
thing that I've done, I've actually done
Yeah.
a lot of new things actually. So I'm just about to release a new preschool language hierarchy. So the preschool language hierarchy is what my PLA is based on, and all of our preschool language therapy is based on. I haven't updated it for a very long time. I'd probably say like over 5 years. And through our podcast, like we did a chat with Steph Pinto on emotional
Hmm.
intelligence, and then a few other professionals. It's pulled me along with research and thinking, how can I put this into preschool language therapy?
Yeah.
So I've at the beginning of August, which is when this will drop, we're going to do a new preschool language hierarchy, which is based on the new research. So what we had before is not wrong. It's just updated on newer research. And I've created like emotional vocabulary as a category in that based on, our chats and the research, and then added lots of different updates to that. So I actually looked at the numbers. I have over 500 people, speeches, who have just bought that resource alone. And then I
Yeah.
also have
So
like
good.
another couple hundred in the PLA. So it like I'd probably say like 600 to 700 speeches need to download the updated version of this
Oh,
um,
yeah.
in August because they'll get that for free. And then if you haven't got it, you need to buy it because it's now updated with all the research. So I've been just doing a lot of like little, like I think it's
Wait.
learning from the last 12 months and then
Yeah.
putting it into the PLA. And
Yeah.
then I've got like a new, so I've done that, the new hierarchy. And then for
Yeah.
September in the works, I've got like a new assessment one coming and um, a new question and answers. I just keep getting so many questions from people clinically,
Oh,
which
yeah. So
relates
you're
to our
like,
topic today on what do I do if this child, how do I know when to discharge a child? How do I know when to um, change the goals? How do I know
Yeah.
when to how do I know if a child's actually learning a goal? Like, I'm just getting all these basic questions. So I'm just going to do a new
Yeah.
module in my PLA,
Yeah,
all on
cool.
questions and like a panel type thing. Anyway,
And
so
I
that's
think
all
that's the
coming out.
cool thing, right? Like I think I'm updating my courses all the time. Like
Mm.
I've just put my assessment protocol in there, which is some like I tested that out on the weekend. It's got all the templates and resources. So
Mm.
and I've had loads of people download that. I've got that as a separate product, and then I've added it to there. I'm actually going to do my I do financial year goals. And my 2026 plan for the course is just to go through my courses and add and edit, which I tend to do, I reckon, once a year.
Mm.
And I've just told my team, like, anytime that I tell you to update something or add a resource, can you make sure that all the members, all the course members are updated
Mm.
with that information? I did a little check last week at how many people had signed up to any of my online products. I think I had about 600 people that signed
Mm.
up to online products. I'm like, wow, that is amazing. Like that's since inception on Kajabi, which I think was like maybe when did I do Tina Tower? Maybe 2022, 2021. Anyway, I just said to Casey, my VA, I'm like, make sure we're letting people know when we're updating it because I think that's something that you and I both do because we're so driven by the research and love to provide those updates. So
Mm. And
um,
there's always things to improve on because of the new research, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
which makes that online and course business so fun and exciting, I think, because it's not like okay, it's done, like that information's there, it's done. And I
Yeah.
think you and I are probably quite similar in that we take on feedback and those questions and we go, okay, how can we put this in to be delivering something that is, more enriching than it currently is and really taking on that feedback. So yeah, maybe that's something we can share on the pod
Yeah.
because chances are that our course members are listening to our pod because they're like probably our main followers.
Yes. So there is always updates and always new things coming out, isn't there? But I feel like we're always doing new things, and it's good to update
Mm,
everyone on what we're doing because I don't share half of what I'm doing, I think, on Instagram and things. So it's good for people to have a like hear us like say what we're doing, right? I need to
totally.
get better at sharing on Instagram.
Well, I was just thinking as you were saying that, and I actually was just checking my August content this morning, and I was just having a look through my photos because I was adding some photo stuff to the socials. And I was like, oh, I've got to do a post on that, and I've got to do a post on this. And I just think that the pace that we're operating at, and then we're also, blocking out a day to do our socials in advance. So it's kind of sometimes hard. I think you've got to do it in stories, maybe.
Yeah, but then not everyone sees that. So people, yeah, anyway.
Anyway,
So let's talk about so that's a little bit of an update of what's been going on with us. We obviously have our kids and mum life and families and holidays and all that sort of stuff as well going on in the back end. So life is full. But so today we wanted to talk about clinical planning. That's a
yeah,
question that has come up a fair bit. And we both have different perspectives from EP Speechy. So let's talk about that and how we can set our goals and get progress for our kids.
so good. Love
So
it. I
I
love
mean,
goal
at
setting. You know
uni,
that.
at uni, we had like the lecturers make a really big deal about management plans. And it's just
Mm,
this big thing, which is done to help us set goals. But I
mm,
just found it the most pointless exercise ever, and I got so lost. But basically,
mm,
speeches come from uni, and you're meant to have, like at uni for your clients, you develop this management plan, and it's like 10 pages long
mm.
and you have to think about the client long term, that's good to do. But you have like I'm not even going to get the wording right. Like you have a big goal, which would be like
Yep.
a whatever goal it is. They have a specific
Like a
word for
long
it.
term, or like what do you mean an overarching goal?
Yeah, like they've got a specific word for it. And then they'd have like a specific goal, then sub goals, and then other goals under that.
Oh,
And then you
right.
get break down into the therapy goals. And that's sort of like how we're trained at uni. I came out of uni and I like basically Never wrote a management plan again, but I sort of real have now realized in reflection I have, but it's more like a practical type of goal setting rather. I feel like at uni it was a very theory based goal setting without like with the practical missing. So you're sort of like, how does this work? I don't know how this goes together.
Yeah.
Um, but I've found that it's been a lot easier to understand goal setting actually working and getting the experience and
Yeah.
understanding children a bit better. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's what
Because,
needs to be done.
I said this on the weekend, like when you're working in peds, you can have a plan. But you need to be so flexible with that plan, right? And you need to, and this is where that clinical intuition comes in, I think that we have talked about. And I was talking about that as well. And it's about having a toolkit of strategies and different activities and strategies up your sleeve to pull out because you can only plan, but it's you need to kind of bring that flexibility into it when you're working with, and particularly, really complex kids. But I think when you've got an overarching goal, and plan, then you can use those strategies. It kind of gives you clarity to kind of then layer in the therapy based on what those big goals are.
Hmm.
So I'm interested to hear because we obviously will work a little bit differently to you. What percentage of your clients are NDIS?
Oh, in speak about?
Yeah,
Probably like 60%,
yeah,
60,
okay,
40. Yeah.
yeah. And when they come to you, have they already got an NDIS plan, or are you doing a lot of like before they're kind of
Mm,
diagnosed and you're.
it depends. We have both. We have kids who
Yeah,
have come in. They'll have an NDIS plan, but they haven't seen a speechy before. So that is all completely new. Or we'll
yeah,
have kids that we see and we go, oh, hang on, we think this is happening. And then we send them on that path and get them started to get NDIS funding. So it's a bit of both.
yeah.
Yeah. What is
Because
it? Yeah.
well, we mostly have kids that are on an NDIS plan, so that their NDIS goals they're obviously not our therapy goals, but we're working back to those goals and we're guided by that. So
Okay.
we've got a fairly detailed intake process now, which our goal setting and our clinical planning kind of all falls into. And so what we do is we have our initial assessment is broken up into an initial non-client facing call, and it is just basically information gathering. In that process, we get the information of the other allied health professionals, which we'll reach out to and see what they've identified, what reports they've done, so that one, we're not doubling up in that, and two, we can just kind of layer in our kind of modality, and then we kind of have our initial face-to-face assessment with the child, which is very much play-based. There's a lot of observation in there, and we will gather as much data as we can or is practical in that first session. And then it's almost like from those two things, which is the information gathering, well, those three things: information gathering, observation, and then assessment and data. We will then go back to what the NDIS goals are, and then we'll go, okay, what's the plan over the next 12 months? And then where do we need to be in the next 3 months, which would be our like interim assessment, to be on the path to those long-term goals. Uh, is that kind of what you guys do, or yeah,
Yeah.
how does it work for you?
Similar. Similar.
Yeah.
I think it probably may differ because we sometimes might be seen first, whereas
Yeah.
you're already seeing, not last, like that's not a bad thing, but they've
Yeah.
seen a lot of other professionals and then they're coming to you, right?
Yeah.
Um, whereas a lot
Either
of,
that,
yeah.
either that, or the parents are almost at initial stages of concern and going, oh, they're just playing a little bit differently to the other kids, or oh, I think their core is a little bit weak. And they're kind of like we're an entry to almost get them to do some, something therapeutic without a formal sort of diagnosis or, just to
Yeah.
almost get our professional opinion on is something going on. Whereas I feel like with you, it's almost like there is
It's a
like
very
you
blank
don't.
slate.
Yeah, and well, and I think like I feel like my experience with speech, it's like, okay, I think something's not right here with the language.
Mm.
I guess it's similar in the
It
sense, but I feel
is,
like
the process is similar, but we probably would see children a lot more at the start of their
earlier.
journey because
Yeah.
parents refer to speech before they refer to OT, physio, dentist, EP, whatever else, psych,
Yeah.
and GPs will just go and see speech.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, like that makes it really difficult as well because then we see children and we're like, we know you need the funding, like your parents shouldn't be paying for this. We know that you can get X, Y, and Z, but then we've sort of got to wait a little bit on that process, whereas you've already had all
Mm.
that. And a lot of our role is parent education because we're the first point of call. So parents are like, whoa, 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 hang on, like what is happening here? So it is a
Yeah.
little bit, that can be hard in that regards. But then also, as a clinician, you then have to have very good clinical reasoning because you've got nothing else to rely on
Yeah.
except the kid. You've like, and what the parents telling you, you don't have previous reports to rely on. You
Yeah.
have nothing.
Yeah.
I think that's what's made me a good clinician is because I've had to land on my feet so many times and go, hang on, this was not, I did not expect this at all. Like so many times I've had a plan for an assessment. I've gone in because the child might be 4, and I think, okay, I'll be able to do a structured assessment for speeches like a
Mm.
self-P. And then I've gone, hang on, this child's at a level of 2. And I go out of the room and I said to the parent, hang on 1 second. I go out of the room and I go get our play-based assessments, informal assessments. And I say to that admin, quickly print off this for me, or can you save this in the drive so I can change my assessment? So in some regards, it makes it a little bit harder, right? Because you've really got to go on your feet. But that's where good clinical reasoning comes in.
I think it
Isn't
makes,
it?
I feel like all these challenges are what makes you so much better. I feel like we've got those challenges in that one, people don't kind of readily like they don't really know what we're
What
doing.
EPs do, yeah.
Yeah, and to get a child to do a formal assessment is close to impossible. So we are very much play-based
Yeah.
and more informal, and like I say, some more observation. So I feel like it's quite similar, but yeah,
Yeah, similar,
yeah,
different. But and then also we would have kids that are not NDIS. So I have kids that just come in for a lisp. And
yeah,
so everything else is tracking fine developmentally. They're completely typical. So we don't have like our whole caseload is not super, super complex. Obviously, it
yeah,
depends on what workplace you work. Some of them are. But
yeah.
for the most part, we have a very balanced caseload. We have literacy, teenagers, school age. We've got then kids who aren't talking. We've got 3 to 4 year olds. We've then got all the different areas. And I was going to say, so that big goal that you're talking about, I think for speech is, and this is probably for EPs too, but we have so many areas that we work on. So
Mm,
obviously, when I'm online, I'm talking about preschool language, but in an assessment, I'm looking at preschool language, I'm looking at speech sounds, articulation, I'm looking at fluency. Are they stuttering? I'm looking at voice. Have they got a voice disorder? Chatting to parents about feeding. Um, and then if they're about to go to school, like pre-literacy. So there's like already 6 areas in an assessment.
mm,
And so often like a lot of my questions that I get from speeches are, how do I know which area to start with? Because you
mm,
don't just have a kid come in with speech sounds, you'll have a kid come in with language, articulation, a stutter, and also showing signs of having literacy difficulties. So that's already 4 areas there. The parents then you might observe, okay, I think I need to refer them to OT. They then also need psych. They've got some feeding issues. So, that's all the other areas as well as then your 4 speechy areas. And so the big thing for clinical planning is, okay, so which area do I prioritize? And where
yeah,
does my planning, how do I get my specific goals when I've got 4 massive areas that need to be focused on? Is that
yeah.
the same for you? You have all these different areas?
We do, but it's not, I don't think it's as complex as that. So I think we're looking at, gross motor skills, fine motor skills, transitions, regulation, executive function. We're looking, and then from a like pure movement perspective, we're looking at posture, balance, those gross motor functions, crawling, walking, like looking at how they're moving. So but I don't think they're like as
Broad, maybe?
like segregated in terms of categories. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's kind
Yeah.
of, um, but I'm wondering, is it all kind of related, or is there kind of a progression of development, or they're just really distinct differences and difficulties in terms
Well,
of,
there's a range in development, but the way that you would treat it and how you would do each therapy is really different. So
yeah,
that's what makes it so different because, it all is like building blocks. It all builds upon each
yeah,
other. So if you've got feeding issues, you're not using all of your oral muscles properly. So then that
yes,
may affect then how your pronunciation is,
yes,
because your muscles aren't being used. It's not a guarantee. Like don't
yes,
don't take that. If you're listening to this and you're going, oh my gosh, my child's this. No, but it like that's how they may link, but it's not a
yes,
guarantee.
yes,
Same thing with your language. If you're not understanding language and following instructions, then you're not going to know. You maybe with your speech sounds or things, if someone's saying to you, you need to make a long sound, you're not going to
yeah,
understand the concept of long. So it all like builds up, but
yeah,
then the way that we would do each therapy is very different. I think that's what makes it very different. But
yeah,
with all of our areas, then overall would be what you got, like what you said, like executive functioning,
yeah,
memory, processing, recall, all of those. When we're targeting all of our goals, it's hopefully then helping all of that as a bigger goal as well. Or we might then drill down in
yeah,
language recall, sorry, executive functioning recall would probably come a bit more under language therapy.
yeah.
But hopefully, in targeting all of those things, you're working on building the executive function, which we can do another episode on executive function
Yeah, I
maybe
was
next
just going to
time.
say
Yeah.
what I would love to pick your brain about because I talk about this a lot is because we're obviously not speechies, but we like to be aware of what is going on because there's so much language involved in
Yeah.
prescribing exercise. So I think it's really important to understand what's going on. The thing that keeps coming up is, how can you tell whether it's language versus cognitive, or is it kind of one in the same? So that I think that cognitive, I think this is a whole new episode, as you
Yeah, we'll do
say,
another
that we
episode
can
on
talk
that.
about. Because I go, okay, we need to identify why they might not be following instructions, and we need to be able to kind of pull on those strategies to assess what's going on, so that we can then effectively communicate to parents and other allies what we're seeing in our sessions. But yeah, let's talk about that on
It's
another
hard to
episode.
it's hard to break it down. Like I commonly get questions even from speechies saying, how do I know if this is a language difficulty? How do I know if this is a language difficulty from a second language? How do I know if this is a language
Mm,
disorder? How do I know if this is a language difficulty because of like DLD, developmental language disorder? So it is like a common question as well within speechies. So I'm not surprised that you're
yeah.
also questioning it.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, wait a second, is this like a cognitive difficulty or a language difficulty?
Yes,
Do I know that?
yes. Is this an overall
And then
intellectual thing? Yeah.
is language a cognitive skill? Like I'm assuming that it would be.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so it's anyway, let's talk about that
Let's
in
try to
another
pinpoint it.
episode.
We will do
Yeah.
another episode. Next episode, we'll do that.
So if you had someone come in, just say they've got, how would you kind of identify that overarching goal? So what we do is we obviously do that information gathering, observation,
Mhm.
assessment, and then we would look at the NDIS goals because 9 times out of 10 we've got NDIS goals, and then we would develop some 12-month clinical therapy goals and some 3-month clinical therapy goals. You're more often not going to have that maybe NDIS goal
Mm.
there. So, yeah, so what's your process and how many sessions does it happen over?
Well, the NDIS goals would be like functional goals, right? So
Yes.
we would always talk to the parent and say, what are your functional goals? Like, what do you
Yeah.
want your child to achieve? So that sort
Yeah.
of goes hand in hand, even if we don't have an NDIS plan.
Perfect. Love it.
Um,
Yeah.
And so, because those the functional goals that we identify with the parents, that's then what we take to the NDIS planner, and that's what we'll
Yes.
link our goals to.
And the
So,
NDIS
yeah,
goals say like they say the parent's goal for da 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 is da da da.
yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah. So
the
that's
NDIS goals are coming from the parents. So that's really good. So we're either we're looking at the NDIS goals and the parent goals, or
both.
or
But
both,
and that's
basically both.
basically just overarching. The main thing is their functional goals of what do
Yep.
they want their child
Why are
functionally
they
to be able
here?
to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we would do a similar process. Like we have our assessment. Obviously, we do a lot more standardized assessment, which we have
Yep.
done a podcast episode on assessments. So you can go
Yep.
back and listen to that. So we have a lot more standardized assessments. We get a diagnosis. We then look at all the different therapy areas, like I said, what's going on. And then depending on the parent, like this is optional, and this is something that our clinic does, is we do have a goal planning session with our parents, which is separate to the
Yeah.
assessment,
Yeah.
where we will then sit and do the functional. That is obviously if you've got NDIS funding, then that's a
Yeah.
mandatory in that. And that's
What if
a
you don't have NDIS
well,
funding?
then it's up to the parents because they can pay for it out of pocket.
Yeah.
They don't have, like, we don't make it compulsory because we understand finances are tight.
Yeah. And is
But
that
we,
done face to face in the clinic
yeah,
with the child?
no, generally not. Like,
Okay.
obviously, it's hard for parents, but we try to do that with just the parent. And
Yeah.
that's what we found. Then we get a lot more parent onboarding because they
Yes.
have time to sit and process and think and make sure that they were really on the same page together. But
Yes.
also, like, I mean, if your kids two, they're not really understanding, but from three onwards, children know what you're saying about them, and that's really powerful.
Yes.
And we sometimes think that that really negatively impacts our
Yes.
therapy, particularly if there's a school age child and I do an assessment on them, I'll say I want you to go sit out with the admin like Rochelle or whoever the admin is because I'm just going to talk to mum. Like I don't want
Yeah.
them in the room, but I will
And
talk to the kid and I will say like this is what the story is, but then to actually go into nitty gritty and talk in parent language, I would
yeah.
probably tell them to go out.
And I think for us, and that's why we do that initial call before the session, because we want that information before we've got the child in front of
Yeah.
us so that we can one set up the space, aligned to what the child needs and
Mm.
wants, and we can get out the certain games that are going to work well and whatnot. But also we find that parents can clam up when they're talking in front of their child,
Mm.
which is 100% understandable when you've got a complex kiddo that is, doing loads of therapy and they're hearing over and over what their challenges are. Like that can have a massive impact. And like you say, massive impact on your therapy sessions with them and your connection with them. So I think for us, we have found that really, really beneficial. We can have an open conversation about what they're really wanting to get out of it, what they're struggling with, all of the things, so that we can kind of go into that with open eyes, and we then will almost assess based on that as well.
Yeah.
So we'll obviously look at what's going on, but we'll assess based on that.
Yeah, it's so important, right?
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
from that, then and this is where speeches vary, and I think allied health professionals would vary in this, is that in our clinic, we have a mandatory report that comes with all of our assessments. So some clinics some clinics will say, oh, the report is extra. You don't have to get a report. Like community health centers will not do reports unless it's for a specific reason and it's just the clinician's notes. And so I've done a lot of different ways over my career, but I've found that doing a report makes me as a clinician then do the clinical planning and the really, really thorough goal setting and I then plan for the child's entire therapy journey as much as I can, which could be 12 months, it could be 24 months, it could be 36 months, it could be 3 months in that report. And because what it forces me to do is it forces me to go back into the data, analyze, get a diagnosis, get a really comprehensive picture of what's going on. Like, just actually sit and go, okay, what is happening? Put all the pieces together, put them into a cohesive paragraph or structure or report style. I found that that is the best clinical use of my time and really helped to develop my clinical reasoning
Yeah.
because I'm able to get my big goal, plan it out, and then get really specific goals from that. And so then I use my preschool language hierarchy and I go, okay, this is the goal that I want to do, and this is where we're going to start, and then chat with parents. And Also, my report. So I also think another part of goal planning is then how you're going to structure your therapy. So you're going to do
Yes.
therapy blocks. Are you going to do terms? Are you going to do school visits, home visits? Whatever
Yes.
those are, you need to like be mapping all that out at one time. Then you obviously reevaluate. But I think you need to have a solid time to do that. And the report, even though everyone hates reports, that's what enables you to do that and to get a really, really good, clear picture of where you're going and what you're doing.
And a note for any of the EPs listening, the report, like we have a mandatory 12-month report in our service agreement. And the reason that we have that, and we're probably a little bit different to you in that parents will quite often say, "Oh, don't worry about a report."
Mm,
And we've had to put it in our service agreement because we need to, for that reason, that we are mapping the therapy out and the girls are really unpacking what is going on and understanding it and able to communicate it in that report. But also, if we're not doing a report, then that report isn't being logged with NDIS. So, in terms of
mm,
funding, we are going to get funding cut. So, it's really, really important that we use that report. And it might be even worth us doing a podcast on reports.
yeah.
But it's really, really important that we're advocating for our therapy and the outcomes of our therapy and why they're needing us and what we're planning to do in that and how they're progressing uh, because that is what NDIS are going to make decisions
Yeah.
on. So I think that that's you guys probably, I feel like reports are a little bit more kind of mainstream for speech, but we quite often get told, oh, don't worry about a report. And I'm like, nah, do not, we are not like,
Well,
we
then
all have to be doing a
you
report.
might have to go back and do a report in 3 months' time because the parent then comes
Exactly.
back to you and says, "Oh, hang on, I need the funding," and you're going, "Oh,
And they do it really last minute. They're like, hey, I need a
yeah,
report tomorrow. It's like,
yeah,
we got back-to-back clients. How are we supposed to do that?
yeah."
So, yeah,
Plus, you
that's
don't
something that we've
remember.
introduced in the last 12 months, which has been really, really good. And I think just to kind of add to what you said, like this becomes your therapy plan. This is your clinical
Mm,
plan. This is your outline of what you're going to focus on. So each session, you know what those short-term goals are. You know what the plan that you're in is so that will like we identify how we're going to measure it each week, what sort of therapy we're going to get in the sessions. That report becomes your therapy plan.
mm.
So that's
Mhm.
guiding you in your therapy so that you're not going, oh, what am I going to work on today? Like we
Oh
know
no, you
what we're
should not
working
be
on.
doing that as a clinician. If you are
No.
doing that, do not do that.
Yes, exactly. So you know what's going on. You've got that mapped out. It's so much less work and so much more streamlined if you are doing that in terms of your own energy management. And then you can focus on the connection. And we know when we've got a good connection, we're going to have better outcomes anyway.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the progress that we want with our children. We want them to be achieving our goals and moving forward in therapy. So, I mean, if you're listening to this and we just said like, don't be going into each session thinking, what am I doing? Like you might think, what am I doing? What toy am I playing with? But not what goal am I setting? Like you should actually know that. Um, so Lizzie, you tell them what resources you've got. I've got obviously my preschool language hierarchy, but I've also got two resources about setting goals, so goal selection guide and then planning your first session. And I've also got a webinar mapping out exactly this process for what I would do as a speechy from assessment to my first session. So I'm going to put the links below. You can just get them. They're just one-off costs. Lizzie, have you got stuff?
Yes, I do. I'm just like, while you're talking, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a webinar on this. So, I've got my assessment protocol, which has got basically step by step what I just spoke through. So from our subjective conversation with parents to our observation to our assessment plan to our report template and our milestones map, which has got basically all markers from 2 to 7, and we keep chipping away at that, adding age groups on. So you can get the milestone map for $7 on my website. You can get the assessment protocol. I can't remember if it's 79 or 89, but it's under 100. So I'll put the links to that in as well. And this is also obviously part of my courses as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've just sort of opened the can of worms today, but there's definitely a lot more to discuss and to get your head around if you're feeling not confident in this area. We hope it has inspired you and spurred you on. We will do another episode, which, like we spoke about executive functioning and all of that, and then maybe reports as well to follow this one up. But until next week, we hope this has given you a lot of food for thought. If you want to continue your learning, you know where to get your resources and where to find us. And until next time, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.